Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Eerie International, episode 489 this week. My name is David from the United States.
And I'm Dave from the UK.
Glad that worked out. We didn't talk about it ahead of time since Andy's not here.
Well,
but Dave jumped right in,
yeah.
Welcome to the podcast. Normally we have a third co-host here with us from Germany, our good friend Andy. He is out this week. Everything's okay. He's just attending to various life functions and events. But that, if this is your first time listening, should clue you in on the whole title thing, right? Eerie International, but multiple countries, you get it. Dave's in the UK, I'm in the US, and this week, Andy's not here to stop us from talking about whatever we want. So it's the wrestling and video game hour.
You have no idea how much I was
not even going to be talking about Underworld. Nah, I'm just kidding. We're talking about Underworld Awakening. This is our loose series that we do whenever Andy is out. We did this already once with the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil series. If you want to go back through, and you can find over the years times where Dave and I jumped over to that franchise to talk about it. Pretty amazing. I was thinking about this last night, actually, Dave, because I started watching the newest, not the new Resident Evil movie that's coming out this year, obviously, but the newest Resident Evil.
Welcome to Raccoon City?
That one, yeah. I watched the first 15 minutes of it last night. I'm not going to be talking about the show today because I haven't finished it. I can review the first 10 or the minutes, my reaction, which was, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It wasn't bad necessarily, but the whole time I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Why are we at an orphanage?
Yeah.
Why is Chris and Claire, why are we seeing them as children? Just anyway. I'll finish it for sure. But I was thinking last night, I was like, man, it's crazy that you and I did all those Resident Evil movies, and at least the first two, if not the first three, I had seen more than once, multiple times, and I don't remember almost anything from any of those movies. It's crazy how, the Underworld franchise is in a similar category, maybe a little bit less so for me in particular because I was very into the series growing up, but just the most disposable movies I've maybe ever encountered, where your brain takes it's like cotton candy almost. It's like you are eating it, but it's not actually food, and even your mouth can tell something.
You don't
wrong.
even have to chew; it just slips down. It's like these movies are essentially the liquid IV of the cinema world.
Right?
Yeah.
So
no flavor,
just
no
without.
memory.
I was going to say, but without any of the nutritional or medical benefits. So anyway. We'll be getting into that. We're already going off on tangents. Welcome to the show. If this is your first time listening, you can find us wherever you found us, along with sundry other places, whatever, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, eerieinternational@gmail.com, whatever you want to do. It's all free, so give us a follow, download, listen, all that jazz. Normally, before we talk about our main topic of the week, we get into anything horror-related that we dipped into in the week prior. We both have some stuff this week. So, Dave, why don't you kick us off? What do you got?
Well, I was only going to talk about one thing, but the fact that you brought up Resident Evil makes me think that we should probably just talk about that trailer,
oh, shit.
Right?
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's do that. No, that's great. I've watched it a few times, and then Andy sent us a trailer, breakdown video that Zach Kreger did that's 12 minutes long. I watched that, too.
I have not watched the breakdown trailer yet.
That's fine.
But I have watched
I'm just throwing it out there for people.
Trailer. Yeah.
What did you think of the trailer?
I like it, but I'm not entirely sure because look, I'm someone who I'm more familiar with Resident Evil through the pop culture than I am through playing the games or anything like that. I played the first one, and then I skipped ahead to Nemesis, and then I ignored that the games existed after that point. They weren't really for me. This feels a lot more like what I've seen of Resident Evil 4 and onwards, where it was over the shoulder, it's not called Village because Village was a much later one, but there was I think it was Resident Evil 4 where you played as Leon and you were in some kind of village and there was a cult and
Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily about zombies, but I remember GameCube had a chainsaw peripheral that you could buy for it, and that was
right.
kind of gnarly. And this feels like it's much more tuned into that era of Resident Evil from what little I know about it. It just doesn't feel like Resident Evil zombies everywhere. It feels a lot more like Resident Evil, there is other paranormal shit going on here, let's explore that. And I'm down for it. I am. Like, I think that the title will get a lot of people in that wouldn't have considered watching it for the fact that, you know, it's just a horror movie rather than a Resident Evil movie. I think there will be some people, perhaps going on what we've seen of the trailer, who will maybe be disappointed because they're hoping for more kind of Umbrella Corporation, zombie infected action. And from what we've seen of the trailer so far, it doesn't look like that's going to be a huge component. But I'm interested in it. I love the way that the trailer uses the kind of the phone tone throughout. Like, it drops it into like the music and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it feels a lot closer to almost like a Cabin in the Woods style horror movie than it does a zombie movie, which I always would have put Resident Evil into the zombie category rather than the Cabin in the Woods kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really interested to see where it goes. I can't promise that I'm going to be watching it day one in the cinema, but the trailer.
I'll make that promise. I'll make that promise right now, Dave. Yeah,
good boy. Okay,
it might be controversial, but I'll make that promise right now.
Fantastic. But yeah, so that was my take on it. What did you feel?
Yeah, I liked it too. You're right. So I've played to your point about how it felt and like various touch points in the series and the franchise. I've played the first two. Have never played 3. I've played 4. Played a little bit of 5. Never played 6, and then I've played 7. And when I say played, I mean I guess I should say beat. Like, I've finished the ones that I've like played all the way through, or like have actually played, other than 5, which was just briefly. So 7 I finished, and then 8 I was like halfway through. 7 and 8 were a big shift. Those were first person. 7 in particular is very Evil Dead inspired at the beginning, so it's funny that you say that about Cabin in the Woods, because it literally opens with you going to a cabin in the woods. But to your point, and Kreger actually talks about this in that longer trailer breakdown video, it's more him kind of tapping into the world and vibe and creatures and things in the Resident Evil world, as opposed, to just straight up zombies. And he even talks about that in the trailer, that there's really, or in the breakdown, that there's really only 2 scenes in the movie that have a bunch of zombies in them. And he points them out in the trailer. He was like, it's this scene right here, and there's like a bunch of people behind a couple doors you can see for a second. And then there's a shot where they're all jumping off the rooftop and like exploding around them. It's pretty cool. And he's like, those are basically the only 2 scenes with zombies. But also, to your point, he talks about that, where he's like, I wanted to basically make a Resident Evil movie where our POV guy, our audience surrogate, whatever you want to call him, is a guy like me. So he's not a trained dude. He doesn't like if I encountered a gun during this event, I would have to be like, all right, how the fuck do I where's the safety? Yeah, it's not like a video game where I can just pick up a gun and I know how to use a gun and I'm a badass. I wanted it to feel like this dude who is just like trying, like, he's basically me in these situations. And along those same lines, the way he described it is that this is a movie, this is a story happening over kind of like on the sides while all the shit's going down at like the police station in Raccoon City and like the ground zero stuff that's happening like at the mansion before it spreads into the city. Like, this is this dude's story over on the peripheral when all that shit's going down. So it's interesting, like we're in an era now with video game adaptations where we've talked about this on the show even here recently with Devil May Cry and some of these other ones, where it's like Exit 8, where we've not only seemingly broken the video game adaptation curse, but they're now getting better and more creative at figuring out ways to adapt stuff, as opposed to I saw another podcast that was, I think, very it wasn't a Resident Evil podcast specifically. I think it was more video games in general. But one of the guys on there was a huge Resident Evil fan, and he was talking about that balance where he was like the Paul W.S. Anderson movies. He was like, they're fun, they're stupid, I enjoy watching them or whatever. He was like, but there was always part of me as a Resident Evil fan that when I saw them, I was almost, he's like, not embarrassed by them, but I wanted to tell people around me that didn't know anything about Resident Evil, like, this isn't what Resident Evil is. Yeah. Like, this is not a good representation at all of what this video game series that I love is. From what I remember, the way he described Welcome to Raccoon City, the one that we briefly touched on earlier, he was saying that one was almost like the opposite problem, where it was like too literal and too many references and too many direct sort of, connections and whatever else. And so he was optimistic about this trailer. He was like, this does feel like Resident Evil, like playing the game, but not in the way that you would normally expect from video game adaptations, which is, oh, fuck, there's Leon. Like, here's the guy we all know. It's more along the lines of, I have nothing. Let me scramble through these fucking drawers in this abandoned house that I found. Okay, there's, a knife, a handgun, and 3 bullets. Like, okay, that's, if you've played a Resident Evil game, especially the ones that are more survival horror coded, then that's a pretty familiar feeling of like,
Green
okay,
herb
cool, I have
spotted,
I have 3 bullets. Oh yeah. And he talks about that in the trailer too. That he added stuff like that. I think shit like that is really cool, and it's also definitely a testament to these filmmakers having grown up with, or maybe not necessarily grown up, but having played and been fans of these games. Like, I saw an article the other day that I'd completely forgotten about when Alien Romulus came out. Fede Alvarez had added in the movie, I'm sure we talked about this on the show, because he loved Alien Isolation, the video game, so much. In Isolation, whenever you get to, they do the same thing in Resident Evil, which is why I thought of it. Like, you'll find a room with a typewriter in Resident Evil, which is a save, how you save your game. Yeah. And then it will be filled, like, there will be a room with a typewriter, and it will also have, like, 3 healing boxes, a shotgun, which you've never seen, 2 boxes of shells. And if you've never played a Resident Evil game, you're like, oh, fuck, this is great. Once you've played them and you've seen the pattern, you're like, fuck. Like, the next, whatever happens next is going to be insanely difficult and or scary, potentially both. Where they're loading me up with shit because the game's about to fucking slap me across the face. And so Alien Isolation had a similar thing where there would be these emergency, they look like kind of like futuristic retro payphones that you used to save the game. And so in Alien Romulus, Fede Alvarez, whenever there was shit was about to go down in the movie, somewhere in the scene he added a phone, one of those phones that wasn't a way for the audience to know or to tell. It'd be more along the lines of like the Oranges and the Godfather or something. But if you're a fan of all this shit, then like, okay, that's that feeling. So it very much feels like, based off the way the trailer looks, based off the way Kreger talks about it, that this is along those same lines. This is somebody who's a huge fan of this franchise, specifically the video game franchise, a fan of playing these games, and is trying to adapt basically that feeling and vibe while still being in continuity, everything else. I don't know how crazy the continuity will go. Not long after that in the games, they fucking nuke Raccoon City. I don't remember exactly what it is. He does talk about that in the video where he's like, I know at some point Raccoon City gets nuked. He was like, that's not in this movie. So it must all basically, he sounds like it happens over the course of one night. But yeah, I think just kind of the back to basics, almost sort of fundamentals of like, all right, let's tap into what makes this. And this is a franchise, too, that, like, they've never really figured that out, as we've discussed. Even before the Paul W.S. Anderson movies, like, they were trying to make one with George Romero, and, like, it's always been something they've never really cracked, even though they've been successful. Like, they've obviously made money.
I would guess that the animated movies are probably fairly close, because they feel like slightly more literal slices taken from in between games. But even then, that's a completely uninformed guess based on tone.
No, you're right. Yeah, I watched the first 1 or 2 of those when they came out. I was in college, and that was my memory, is that they were basically like, it was the same era as when Final Fantasy VII Advent Children came out, where it was like, let's put a lot of money into what are essentially like really high-end cutscene movies that you would get from the games, using similar character models and the continuity of the games and everything else. And I remember liking those, but yeah, it was definitely the game as opposed to usually you can like it's all like I don't know. Definitely a Resident Evil fan. I like the franchise a lot. I even like the movies, as we've talked about to some degree or another. Usually, you can tell that they're up to some shit because a Wesker will show up. That's the that's the through line. And I even noticed last night there was a Wesker that showed up right at the beginning of Welcome to Raccoon City. I was like, okay, here we go. Like this is the one kind of beat they always go back to. And then in very, at least to my memory, in very Metal Gear Solid-esque fashion, it gets even more convoluted and wonky after that, where it's like, well, this is actually Wesker's twin and his clone, or whatever. So, anyway, yeah, I'm excited for it. To me, honestly, what's probably the craziest thing about this trailer and everything else is that Zach Cregger has made 3 fucking movies in like 4 years. It's crazy how fast his output has been. And especially with something like this where it was like it was announced and then it seemed like he shot it right away and pretty quickly, and then the trailer was out. Like it was a very fast turnaround, and Weapons was the same way, and I think it actually got released early. So yeah, pretty crazy. I'm excited for it. So I showed Daniel. Daniel's a big Resident Evil fan. My son, he'll be turning 10 this year, and he's played the 4th one. I think mostly just the 4th one. I let him play that one. 7's a little bit too intense, I thought. But I showed him the trailer, and he was into it, but it like had like a big sort of like what reaction moment when the title card came up, because he did not clock that it was Resident Evil at all. So I think he's interested in it too. But yeah, I liked it.
Awesome. Right, so the thing that I was going to actually bring to the conversation.
Yeah, sorry.
So no. I mean, I said we should probably talk about this first. There's no need for an apology. So there, a little while ago, I want to say late last year, you mentioned a book series that you were reading called Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Ooh.
And
okay.
I don't know if you know this, but there is a RPG that's going to be released.
I do know this. I don't know a lot about it, but I'm aware of its existence.
Yeah, so I didn't know about this until the other day when I was watching YouTube, as I often do, and Ginny D released a video which has got a really striking thumbnail, which has the words "kill, kill, kill" on it, with her standing there in a white top with hearts on it. And
get out there and kill, kill, kill.
There you go.
Audiobook is how they say it in that.
And she's got a cat sitting on her shoulder, and immediately I was like, okay. And then I read the title, and it said, "I am Dungeon Crawler Ginny," and I was like, this has got to be Dungeon Crawler Carl. There's no way. So I watched the video, and yes, there is an RPG coming out from Renegade Studios based on Dungeon Crawler Carl. Apparently, I don't know this because I've yet to read them, although I definitely want to read them. A lot of the rules for the game are actually kind of lifted from the book. Like the book is quite good in dropping lore in terms of like how things work.
Oh yeah. Well, it's kind of the first big breakthrough successful lit RPG book, and they as like a subgenre of sci-fi fantasy, whatever you want to break it down into. So yeah, it's very it's gamified in a very accessible way. My dad's read all the books. He loves them. My dad doesn't know fucking shit about video games. But for people like you and me, yeah, he gets down there and it's like, oh, I got a notification for this item, and here it has this debuff or whatever. Like for us, we were just like, oh, okay, all these systems already make so much sense.
Yeah.
Because we're so used to them in games and tabletop role-playing games and everything else. So yeah, that makes total sense to me that it just lifted right out of the books, basically.
Yeah, so it's heavily informed by the books, obviously, but also it feels as though the basic fundamentals of it are taken from Dungeons and Dragons, which is no bad thing, because when you've got an RPG that has been running for as long as D&D has been, it's a pretty bomb-proof set of basic building blocks. So like it's based around, I think, 5 or 6 stats. There is no wisdom, but intelligence obviously is in there. It does things a little bit differently with how you use certain stats. It's got, rather than having like, you have 40 hit points and so you basically just take damage normally, it does something a little bit different, which I swear I've seen in another RPG, but for the life of me I can't think what the name of it is right now, where it splits your health into blocks, or like into 10 equally sized blocks, and in order for one of those blocks to be eaten away, the damage threshold for that block has to be overcome. So if you had 40 health, then it would be 4 points per block. So if an enemy character does 3 points of damage to you, it doesn't remove that one block, so you still have your 10 blocks.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's an interesting mechanic. It's basically kind of, rather than having like an armor class, it's basically like, instead it's like, well, you have to do a heavy enough bit of damage to get through the armor to do the damage to to hurt someone. So that's quite a cool idea.
It's very deck buildery combat, like Slay the Spire. I've talked about that on the show. Like that's how games like that work, where it's like, all right, the enemy's going to be attacking for well, I don't have to break this all down, but yeah, where it's a threshold thing and you're basically just meeting, and as long as you meet that minimum threshold, then you don't take any damage, but it doesn't keep tracking it after that. It's just for that little encounter. And,
yeah. It's got a really cool mechanic where if you survive your season, which is basically like your playthrough, they're called seasons to match up with what's going on with Dungeon Crawler Carl, you can become a game guide instead of being a crawler. So basically, because it's the same game played over and over, you can almost be like a quasi mix of player and GM, where you can advise people, and you can be as much of an arsehole or a help as you want to be. And I love. Man,
that's such a good idea. That's straight out of the book. Yeah,
it's a really.
You haven't read the books yet, right?
I've not, but Ginny goes into detail about the fact that there is an alcoholic dude in there that is Mordecai. Like, yeah.
He's a great character. Yeah. You will love these books, dude. When I brought these up on the podcast, I think I specifically called you out.
Yes.
Where I was like, this is a series Dave will absolutely love. Yeah.
Do you know what? I went onto Amazon and I was like, maybe I can find the audiobooks. And I did. And I was like, do I want to have to listen to them through Audible? Not really. So I keep umming and ahhing about it. And then it got put to the back of my mind and I've kind of forgotten about it since. But now I'm going back to the well and I'm going to see. I might just pick the books up because I've been reading through Ready Player 2 recently. And I've had to renew it twice because I'm not a quick reader. But I am enjoying it. Not horror, which is why I haven't brought it up on the show before. But it has got me back into kind of reading to some degree. So it's got its faults. Like, I'm not saying Ready Player 2 is a great book. I think the biggest sin it commits is making the lead character completely unlikable at the very beginning and doing very little to keep you on board with him. But again, this isn't a sci-fi show. This is a horror show, so I won't go any further with that. But I do, after I'm done with that, I think I'm probably going to pick up the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series and start making my way through them. But yeah, for anyone that is interested, YouTube, Ginny D, I mean, she's a great creator for people that are interested in tabletop role-playing games in general, but specifically D&D she tends to focus in on. But as evidenced by this video, there are other TTRPGs out there that she will cover from time to time if they take her interest. So search her up, search her channel. It's Ginny, G-I-N-N-Y, and then D is D-I. Really great sense of humor on her. She's always making jokes about what this is why I carry a sword, and then she just pulls up this broadsword from the side and just kind of there's a swishing noise effect. It's pretty funny. The video specifically is called "I'm Dungeon Crawler Ginny," so you can look that one up. I'll put a link in the show notes where we talk about what else we got into this week, and I'll also link the backerkit.com kind of Kickstarter-esque campaign. It's raised this is ridiculous. They wanted $250,000 to make it work. So far they've raised 9.1 million.
I was going to say, I bet it's in the millions.
They've done quite well.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm I don't know. I need to have a look into that a little bit more as well. But yeah, for sure, like those two things are worth having a look at if anyone has any interest or has read the books on the back of your recommendation beforehand. But yeah, I thought I would bring that up because I was fairly certain that you'd be aware of it, but I didn't know by how much. So yeah, I'll send you those details as well.
Yeah, definitely do. The Dungeon Crawler Carl universe is like really starting to pop off. Yesterday was Free Comic Book Day here in the States. I don't remember. I work in the fucking comic book industry. I think there's 2 now. And I say I work in the comic book industry. The rest of that sentence is, and I have no clue what's going on. I think there's 2 of them now. There's Free Comic Book Day, and then there's like another one that's like, complimentary funny book time or something. Like, I don't remember what it's called, but it has another. I think it's because of the way the publishers split it up now. Anyway, there was a Free Comic Book Day yesterday here in the States. I'm not sure which one. But Vault put out their books, and one of them was a Dungeon Crawler Carl 0 issue, which is basically, I think they just reprinted the beginning of the Webtoon series. There's a Webtoon adaptation. But then there's a graphic novel that's coming out from them that's set in the same universe that's brand new. There's a TV show in development. There's like action figures and shit I've seen now. Like it's pretty crazy how it exploded. And it's one of those Andy Weir Martian or the dude who wrote Rust, Hugh Howey sort of, is that his name? I think so. Stories where it's like this dude writes this thing that he owns and through word of mouth and having it cheap on Amazon or through his website, whatever else, like it grows and grows and grows. And then seemingly, it's not overnight, but now it's this like massive, it's crazy. And Matt Dinniman owns all of it. It's pretty great for like creative ownership.
This is the thing. If you create something, then it should be yours. So the fact that he's getting his bag on it is absolutely the right thing. So long may it continue, and long may other people get to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing I'll throw in there. He also did another book. I'm sure I mentioned this on the podcast that I really liked. That is definitely a horror book.
I think you did.
Called Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon, I think is the name of it.
Yes, it's
Kaiju : and then I think it's Battlefield Surgeon. But yeah, it's very Dungeon Crawler Carl E in the sense that they're in a game type deal. Although in Dungeon Crawler Carl they're not digital avatars, they're actually there. But the Kaiju book is much more of like a serial killer horror kind of vibe with the video game. I really liked it a lot. It's pretty dark. Okay, I've got a couple of quick things here. I wanted to mention a couple of books by Jason Arnopp, Arnopp. So I owned one of his books, one of the ones I'm going to be talking about, called The Last Days of Jack Sparks, for quite a while on in I believe my Audible library. I've had the audiobook. It's either that or in my Kindle library, but it's been one of the two, right? I knew I had a digital version of it because I'd seen the cover. I'm not really sure why. I don't know. Sometimes it'll be like I'll get an email from Amazon or whatever. It'll be like, hey, these sci-fi fantasy horror books on Kindle are 99 cents today or whatever. It might have been something like that. It has a bunch of British comic book professional blurbs on the front. I think that's coincidental because they're people who wrote comics that also write books. But there's an Alan Moore blurb on the front of this book, which I never would have guessed. It does not seem like the kind of book Alan Moore would be into. There's an M.R. Carey, or as comic book readers know him, Mike Carey blurb. There's a couple others. Anyway, but I'd owned this book forever. I saw it recommended in a Reddit thread recently in the past couple weeks on, I think the thread was something along the lines of like, can you suggest more books like House of Leaves, like, liminal space, creepy sort of vibes or whatever. And somebody recommended a different book he had done called A Sincere Warning About the Entity in Your Home. Found that online. There was like a print on demand copy. It was at my house 2 days later through Amazon, and I read all of it. Really liked it. It's a little short horror story. I would say it's probably like 70 pages long, maybe. And the way that it's set up is not in a meta way where it's like really trying to be cute and tricky with how they're presenting it, but in a way that kind of works for anybody, which is basically that you're reading what is essentially a letter that's been left in your mailbox from the person who used to live in the house that you live in now. And they basically are explaining like, look, you have no idea who I am. You won't ever know who I am. I did a lot of this shit through dummy accounts, people, whatever, so that the person that you bought the house from, like, that was through me, whatever. And there's reasons he's placed these safeguards, but basically he's saying like, there's something in that house and it's your problem now. And here's some help, basically. Here's what I went through. And then here's some things that helped me that might help you, but in a way where you can't. There's an It Follows sort of component to it. Not exactly the same, but a thing where it's like this person's trying to protect their own safety too. So you're getting this like weird like letter to you, but it's also telling a story. And I thought it did cool stuff with like the haunting sort of angle, this ghost that's in this house, this entity, and how they are having to deal with it. And then once I finished it, I was like, all right, I'll give that Jack Sparks book a try. And I'm now almost halfway through it, and I like it quite a bit as well. It's similar in the sense that it's like a different kind of format, but it does settle into long stretches of the book that read just like a normal novel. But essentially, it's Jack Sparks is a fictional character. He's this like basically kind of pastiche version of like, you know, John Ronson, the journalist. John Ronson, or who's the other British one that's really famous, who's also a nerdy guy with glasses. It's not narrowing down. There's a lot of British people.
There's a lot of nerdy British people with glasses.
Me too. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not talking shit about the Brits. No, Thoreau, Louis Theroux.
Oh, Louis Theroux.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
Is that his name? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a mashup of those guys, where he's this, but with, I would say, with a dash of fucking Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That dude, Hunter S. Thompson, where he's a little bit more abrasive. Not a little. He's very abrasive and is, you know, kind of. I started to say a streak of like Russell Brand, but that dude is especially weird to bring up now. But you remember how Russell Brand used to be.
Well, before he was spending all of his time trying to find something in a Bible he couldn't find,
Sure. When he was just the normal amount of shitty douchebag, bad boy.
Before we knew.
Right. So he's dead. Like the book, the title of the book, The Last Days of Jack Spark, like he's dead. So the book is essentially put together as this sort of like collection of things. It's at its core a manuscript of the book he was writing, and the book that he was writing was about him essentially not trying to disprove the supernatural, but going into it as a skeptic, being like, ghosts, all this stuff's bullshit. I'm going to, you know, write a book. I'm a skeptic, and, you know, no one's going to be able to prove me wrong kind of approach. But it's unedited, so there are within the world of the book, obviously, it's unedited, so there are like annotations and footnotes from Jack Sparks's brother and his, I think, editor. So you're getting like little asides and like phone transcripts from calls and stuff outside. So he does this cool narrative sort of thing where it's like, you'll read about a section in the book where Jack Sparks, in first person from his manuscript, he's talking about like, oh, I was dealing with this ghost hunter and she's full of shit. And here's, you know, we both recorded our conversations. Here's what went down, and, you know, here's how she was shitty to me, blah, blah, blah. And then after that chapter's over, you might get the actual transcript of the audio. So then you read the whole thing and you're like, oh, all that's the same. He left that shit out. Like there's stuff like that where you can tell, like, so he does a lot of fun things with it. And then the kind of what's on the back of the book at its core is that he's trying to write this book about supernatural. He witnesses an exorcism. Shortly after that, he gets a video post from his own YouTube channel that no one can figure out. It's this really creepy video, and then like days later, he's dead. So those are sort of like the setup, the setup of the book. So you're there during the exorcism, you're seeing the video that he's seen, and then he's trying to unravel it and figure it out from there. But yeah, I dig it. It's good. It's like I said, it's got a lot of stuff going on, but I feel like he was able to find a good rhythm with it. And I definitely wanted to recommend it. If it completely tanks in the second half, I'll bring it up on the show and withdraw my recommendation. But so far, I feel pretty confident. Like it's well done. And one of those, I'm reading like 5 books right now. Like I'm in one of those modes where I'm just
you do that.
I don't always do it. I used to do it a lot more. Yeah, it hasn't happened in a while. But I think it's also helped that of the like 5 I'm reading right now, only really one of them is like tough, is like dense, where I'm like, okay, I gotta lock in. The other ones are and I'm not talking shit about this Jack Sparks book, but that's kind of what I was going to say in a complimentary way, is that it's one of the books I'm reading right now where I can just pick it up no matter what's going on and dive right back into it.
That's the thing.
It's really easy. It's complimentary.
I would take that as the ultimate compliment, honestly. Like, you know, if someone says, "Oh, this book is so easy to read," I just pick it up and I'm in it straight away. Like, I can't think of anything, if I was writing a book, I can't think of anything I would want people to say more than, I find reading this book exceptionally easy to get into.
For sure.
Because otherwise you're writing, great expectations and
some dull bullshit.
I know I'm going to get people coming out of the woodwork now saying, "What the fuck are you talking shit on Great Expectations?"
I know what you mean, though.
And I'm just like, when I was studying English at school and we had to read that book, like, that book is so fucking tough. It is like eating your vegetables mixed with like the toughest fucking concrete like porridge that you've ever had. It's just it's the kind of intellectual food that would give you like the ultimate Chad jawline, like honestly, like, tie 10-kilo dumbbells to the bottom of your jaw and just work that shit. It is a classic book and it has a lot of value to it, but for just everyday communal cardinal readers, and I wouldn't even put myself in that category, I would put myself in the very kind of lowest category of reader. Like, it's just so fucking tough, and all credit in the world to people who can pick up a book like that and read it and enjoy it and get true value from it. But I just leave me to my Ready Player Ones, and
and that's definitely, you nailed it. I mean, I just didn't want it to come across like I'm so paranoid. It's happened not a lot, but enough times.
Let me get
now.
the ire from the listeners. And
it's happened. No, not even listeners. It's happened enough times now where I've been talking candidly about something, and then like 2 weeks later, they're like, "Oh, the person that you were talking about heard that thing that you said." And I'm like, "Fucking how? Like how? Like this is, I have no connection to this dude."
I'm so concerned Charles Dickens is going to hear what I've just said about.
No.
Actually, was it even a Dickens book? I'm not sure.
No, it is. It is.
Thank fuck for
that. I didn't want Arnopp to somehow hear this little clip from the podcast and be like, "This motherfucker talking like I write." I meant it complimentary.
It's so complimentary.
It's engaging. So, and then the only other thing I was going to mention very quickly is not something I read or interacted with, but something I worked on. If you have been listening to the show for a bit, you might remember a while back we did an episode over a comic book. Right now, Skybound, which is an imprint of Image Comics, they have the licensing set up for the Universal Monsters lineup. They've done Dracula, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, I think The Phantom of the Opera. Is that one that's coming out now? I don't care about that one because I don't care about the movie version that much either. I've never really included him in the Universal Monsters. I know he's part of it, but I'm also like, okay, I'm technically sure.
Yeah. Like, the musical is really good though. Like, genuinely, like
I don't hate Phantom of the Opera, but
the films have been amazing.
And we reviewed and talked about the Creature from the Black Lagoon one, which I did the lettering on. So if you've never listened to the show, I'm a comic book letterer, but that's what I do for a living. So there's a new one coming out, Blood of the Wolfman, and I'm lettering that one as well. So I was very excited to get invited back for another one. When I worked on Creature from the Black Lagoon, the editor on it was a different editor than what it is now. And that editor at the time, I sent a bunch. I just basically walked around my house and was just snapping pictures of random Universal Monster bullshit I have everywhere. So like stuff hanging from the rear view mirror of my car and like keychains over on the wall. They're like print like frames that are prints that are framed and stuff like that. Basically just to be like, look, if you guys ever need letters for these, I will letter all of them. Like I love Universal Monster stuff. So I think the editors have kind of jumped, like it's been multiple editors. So usually if there's one editor on a book, a lot of times they'll be like, oh yeah, let's bring back these people, like especially like letters and colorists and stuff that we've worked with that we liked. And so I think because it got split up, that was part of it too. But this editor on Wolfman, I've worked with them in the past before, and they hit me up, which I was like, yes, absolutely. I'm 100% down for this. So the full team, Joshua Williamson is writing it. Leo Max is the artist. I think that's how you pronounce their name. They did the art on, there was a Joe Hill comic that came out called A Basket Full of Heads, which was pretty cool. It came out, I don't know, 5-6 years ago maybe. And they did the art on that. And I've been a fan of their stuff ever since and have worked. Can I say, how much can I say? First issue is done. I can say that. I'll say that. I feel safe saying that. So it's still being worked on. It's not out yet. I think it comes out, I don't know, does this website have the actual release date? Not totally sure. June 24th is what this website says. Blood of the Wolfman #1 will be in comic book shops. So I don't know what's been released about the plot, if anything, so I'm not going to say anything just to be totally safe. But yeah, it's a cool book. So was excited about that and wanted to share. I think that's it for me this week, Dave. So if you're good, we can dive right into our movie.
Let's fucking go.
Okay. All right. This week, Jesus.
Sorry, too much.
No. I was just more reacting to these movies. Although, let's get into it. We're talking about Underworld Awakening this week. 2012 American action horror film. This one is directed by Mons Marlin and Bjorn Stein. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those names right. Probably not. Probably a little bit more.
It sounds close enough.
A little more accents need to be hit on that, but yeah, for my Americanized version of it. And we've got a whole bunch of people on the script. The original story was by Len Wiseman, series co-creator, and John Hlavin, I think is how you pronounce his name. And then the screenplay by Wiseman, Hlavin, Allison Burnett, and at the time, this was a big name for me. Not that I hate him now or anything, but when I was a younger man, J. Michael Straczynski, comic book writer. He also worked a lot on TV, but I knew him from comics. We've broken this part down on the other episodes too. So let me also hit this. It cost $70 million, made $160. So, did okay. It wasn't like a massive runaway hit. And did well enough to make another one, which will be the final one whenever we get to that.
I think this is the highest grossing of the Underworld movies from what I read.
Oh, shit, is it? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And this was... There had been I believe, and let me double check here, there had been a little bit of a longer break. It was about the same between the other movies. So I take that back. Underworld came out 2003, Evolution 2006, Rise of the Lycans 2009, Underworld Awakening 2012.
Although as we...
Probably...
Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
I keep jumping in. As we're aware, the third movie was a prequel movie with very few of the cast coming back, so... It kind of was a longer wait between, that's probably why it felt that way, because Beckinsale had been gone for 6 years at this point.
I remember at the time, much like Rise of the Lycans, I had not seen this since I saw it in the theater, also with my best friend Sean from high school, who I also rewatched the last one with again. And I remember at the time thinking or feeling sort of like, I'm still into this. I'm still excited about this movie. It's maybe a little bit more ironic for me now, like my enjoyment of it than it was when I was a younger man, where I thought that these were awesome movies. And I remember it also kind of feeling like we're in a weird place with the franchise now because let me hit the rest of this stuff. So it's direct sequel to Underworld Evolution, like Dave mentioned, the second one, and then it is the fourth installment in the overall series. I don't get into critic shit anyway, but none of them were critically well received, so no change there.
No surprise there.
This is what I was going to say earlier too. So I think a big part of it as well is right at the beginning you get set up with a lot of lore stuff. So between the way the second movie ended, and we talked about this when we had that discussion. I remember at the time being so excited as an Underworld fan, as a young boy, that it was doing cool things with the lore and taking the world in interesting places. Where it was like, okay, now Selene has this power; she can be in the sunlight. She's maxed out on powers and shit. Her and Michael have this like sort of new power dynamic that they've got within the world. They've completely fucked up the balance of everything that's going on. Blah, blah, blah. We have a third movie that's a prequel, so we don't get to see what happens after that. This fourth movie kind of like weirdly continues and reboots that reset. It like ignores it, but also kind of continue. It's a very odd thing that they do, because this one opens with it having been 12 years, I think.
Yep.
It's like a 12-year time jump, something like that. And it's just a completely different world. At some point in there, humanity discovered vampires and lichens. There was this thing that they called the Purge, where they were just killing all of them. So vampires and lichens have both basically had to go like back into hiding. There's some sort of corporate organization that's doing experiments on vampires. That's where we first see Celine. She's waking up in this like cryo chamber thing that she's in. And the lichens are pretty much just, they seemingly gone. There's some that they call them lower lichens. She calls them lower lichens at one point, which I think is supposed to imply that they just like live in the sewers or like live like down in tunnels and shit. So that's the world that we're in. The setup is from there is basically that Michael and Celine have gotten split up. Celine's trying to find Michael. There's also a brand new there's some crazy brand new shit introduced in this movie. A brand new power conceit thing where Celine is having these like shared visions with someone. And you quickly realize throughout the film that they have a daughter, that Michael and Celine have a daughter. She's this 12-year-old girl. She's, I guess, a hybrid. They call her that. She's just kind of a girl that looks scary sometimes. They don't really continue. There's no consistency. And that's where the movie unravels from there. So I wrote notes down for this one. I don't think I did for the first three. At least I don't remember writing notes down. But I started to have a lot of reactions to different things in a way that I wasn't expecting, mostly in the first half. So before I start, like, just going through all these random observations, let's start with overall thoughts. What did you think? And this was a first-time watch for you, too, I think, right?
It was. Yeah, it was.
Okay. What was your take?
I didn't mind it. I think
that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, like we come into these movies knowing what to expect, especially because at this point there are 3 of them in the wild, 2 of them set in this time period, and it's more of the same. I was a little bit annoyed, and I don't know what the thinking was behind doing it, but the whole, oh well, Michael's in it but he's not really in it, and the actor didn't sign on for it because you know, I mean, are you honestly
one of the few things I remembered?
Are you honestly telling
I think
me
I
he'd be
mentioned
too
it in a
expensive?
past episode.
Yeah, like were his wage demands ridiculous? I don't know. Maybe he was just unable to. Maybe he's booked doing something else. I don't know. But it just kind of felt like you've got this super powerful character, and we don't know entirely what to do with him. So let's just nerf him, and then use him for a cliffhanger, which we may or may not resolve in a satisfactory way down the line. I don't know for sure. I've not seen the last one yet. But I don't know. It kind of felt like, why not just kill him? Like at this point, at this point, you've got Celine who can walk in the daylight, so she's kind of like as powered up as she's going to be. You've got their daughter who basically can just take on the mantle of her father, right? Like she is the ultimate example of a hybrid. She is literally the offspring. As far as I'm aware, never before known to happen in this universe, where a vampire gives birth to a child. But not just that, a child of a werewolf and a go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say they refer to her as the first hybrid child.
Yeah.
They're very specific in how they, in how they say it.
So, like, she, if anything, should be even more powerful than Michael, at least in my limited knowledge. Yeah, like, my limited knowledge of script writing is normally that, well, the children of powered people tend to be kind of like the next evolution. They tend to be more powerful, or something along those lines. Obviously, you can take that story wherever you want, and they did. They just made her scary girl who can occasionally rip people in half as long as she has access to their eye sockets.
Yep.
And that was gnarly. Like, I did like a lot of that. It was, I think, my main problems with the film come from kind of like casting decisions and things like that. The actual story itself, I didn't really have much problem with. I love the idea that Celine is kind of frozen and then brought back 12 years later, and the world is completely different. You know, it's almost like they stopped filming.
I do
in
like that
Eastern,
too.
Yeah, like they stopped filming in Eastern Europe and moved to Canada instead for some reason. Like the world became a lot more Americanized around them. I do have to say, I take an ungodly amount of pleasure in seeing a police department scene where all of the police cars are basically just black sedans with white doors with the letter P written on them. I don't know what it is about the simplicity of that. Like, it almost harkens to like cartoons or something like that. But I kind of dug it, honestly. And yeah, like I thought,
man, there's. No, it's a random aside. A friend of mine recently, we were talking about like. So she, give you a little bit of context. So she doesn't own a TV and hasn't basically forever. So she's aware of like pop culture shit because how can you not be?
Yeah.
But she just doesn't interact with like movies and TV shows and stuff like I don't want to say like everyone else does, but like how most people do. And so I was talking to her about it the other day, and I was asking her like, you know, what is it about? Because she's talked about that too, like going to see movies or whatever. Like she can't, like her attention span doesn't hold out for as long as it should or whatever else. Like eventually she's just kind of like, and then she said something the other day that has rocked me to my core that I keep thinking about. And it especially came up during this movie in particular,
right,
where she was like, I'm trying to think of exactly how she said it. She was like, it's all pretend. Like there's like it's all, none of it's real kind of thing, which is one of those things that's very obvious. But for whatever reason, when she said it, it was the first time I'd ever considered it. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like we are all kind of just watching all of these people pretend to do this thing. Like when you break it down that way, it is kind of like funny and weird and goofy that we're like watching these, you know, pretend make-believe plays that people are putting on and filming or whatever else. And that thought hit me as I was watching Underworld, where I was like, what the fuck is this movie? And like the fact that we enjoy these movies in the way that we do, like it's just that whole, because like you mentioned the police department stuff, that's what made me think of it. Like none of the scenes with the cops, with the police departments, with the station, like anything with any kind of like recognizable real world analog feel real. Like none of them do. It never feels realistic. Like it's easy to suspend your disbelief more weirdly when you're like in a coven, you know, or something where it's like, okay, this is just like a fucking tomb that they, like a set that they've made. We have no real life analog for this. There aren't people hanging out in these old crypts like these vampires are doing. But I've been to a police department before. Like I know what that looks like. And this is just so unrealistic. Somehow a very easy thing like a room with desks doesn't feel real in these movies. And yeah, that has hit me now. So now every time that artifice in a movie or TV show has happened, I've been like, God damn it, has this girl ruined movies and TV shows for me? Or I'm just like, she is right. It is all pretend. What are we doing? Like I had this weird kind of crisis moment. But this movie and these movies, this franchise in particular, has one of the most egregious examples of that in movies I've seen recently, where it is, so unrealistic.
I think that the thing is, some of these films and all of acting in general kind of relies on us being willing participants, right? Like the audience has to be willing when they go to the theatre to pretend that the people up on stage are in a room with four walls and they're having real conversations about real things. And, you know, that helicopter that swoops in the third act of that play is a real helicopter and not just half a helicopter on a suspension rig.
Right.
That's a really specific reference to a movie, to a play that for the life of me I cannot remember the name of right now. And someone's going to get it, and they're going to feel really clever and smart, and I'm going to feel terrible because I can't remember the fucking name of the thing. But yeah, it is all about makeup. It is make believe at the end of the day. But I kind of dig the fact that with some of these, they're just like, well, look, we know that you know that this isn't real, so we're not going to make that much effort.
I was going to say,
save the effort on it.
Yeah,
like,
and then it can happen exactly like that. Yeah, it can happen exactly like that too, especially with horror movies. And I think like you know, movies that we watch ironically maybe too, where we are able to connect and snap. But it's like we hear that phrase where it's like if you're able to just kind of turn your brain off and have fun with it, like that is able to have you snap into that same artificial reality, but through a completely different, not artificial reality as an AR, but like as this fake agreed upon reality as that you mentioned. But in a different way that's like acknowledging the fact that it's not real. Anyway, this is a very fucking college freshman 101 stoner kind of conversation. But it's especially, it's one of those things where like, it's not something you think about the artifice of it when you're watching Oppenheimer or, you know, when you're watching a movie that's like very well made or whatever, like, and very realistic. So it's especially apparent, I think, in a movie like this where it's any scene you can look at it. And I this happened to me throughout the entire movie where I was thinking like Kate Beckinsale is, I think, a pretty good actress. Like, I don't think that she's somebody who is only in this role because she's pretty. Like, I think that, you know, these movies don't demand a lot from her, obviously, but I've seen her in other stuff and I've always thought she's good. Like, she's not a bad actress I don't think by any stretch for the most part. So Theo James, same way. That dude shows up in this movie. I completely forgot he was in this. I remembered him in the next one. I'd seen him in The Monkey since then. He's in 2 co-leading roles in The Monkey. But I forgot he was in this one. Same deal for him. Charles Dance, somehow, much like Bill Nighy, who he is clearly supposed to be replacing. Like, they were like, who's another old British dude that carries the same screen
all vampires
presence?
are old and British. Yes.
Right. Like, Charles Dance and Bill Nighy. Like, as soon as I saw Charles Dance, he's one of those actors where you're like, shit, I can't believe he wasn't in these movies until now. Like, it kind of just seems like he's already been in them. Yep. Those dudes are able to, like, kind of just inhabit it in a way where you're like, I don't know, you can maybe just be an actor in any movie and it work okay. But some of these people I look at, Theo James, Beckinsale, where you're just an uncredited Wes Bentley. That was odd too. I don't know if you recognized him. He's like the guy to be in these movies too. Wes Bentley is like primed and ready for an Underworld or Resident Evil franchise.
Did not anyway. Yeah, I think he's got one of those.
He's
faces
the like
that
doctor she kills.
Yeah, I recognized his face, but I couldn't tell you what else I'd seen him in.
He's the bad guy in the first Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movie. Okay. He's also in the Hunger Games, the first movies. I think he's the guy that like announces the games that has the real wacky hair and like goatee or something.
That might be where I've seen him. Yeah. Because apparently,
I want to say that
according to this, he was in American Beauty as well.
Oh yeah, he's the like. That's right. That's probably his big kind of like breakthrough role. Yeah. I'm guessing if I remember correctly. He's the kid that's filming the fucking plastic bag that's flying around. Anyway, so. I kept thinking about that. It's like Theo James and all these people just making these movies and what must be going through their heads in these moments, because you have to bring an element of, like you said, of believability to it. Like you can't have it be completely campy. But yeah, anyway, the whole thing is the further we get into this franchise as a whole, I think also the more I'm so fascinated by the place it holds in pop culture. And we've already landed in past discussions about how it's kind of like Underworld or Twilight for boys, to make a very sort of like gendered and reductive way of looking at it. But like it has similar fandoms and similar lore and like overlaps with different areas and how people interact with them and everything. Anyway, I'm going off into the weeds. Keep going. It sounds like I don't know. We kind of just got into it too. It sounds like we're both in the same place with overall thoughts.
Absolutely. I thought India Isley, who plays Eve, although I don't know, is her name ever actually given to her during? Maybe I zoned out because at one point somebody asks her, "What's your name?" and she says "Subject to," and maybe they name her at that point, and I just missed it. But she's credited as Eve in the credits.
I think somebody had named her that, maybe. I didn't really... I don't know if I missed this or they don't talk about it, but, like, I guess the assumption is that Celine got pregnant.
She was pregnant.
I mean...
I think, yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously she got pregnant, but, like, I'm assuming she got pregnant from the time they had sex in the second movie? Like, not that we have to see them have sex every time, but, like, this is a very limited, quick relationship, really, when you, like, look at because the first and second movies are, from what I remember, they're pretty much just nonstop. I don't think that there's not like a, and now we've been living, on the run for a year, me and Michael, and as we go into movie 2, like it's quick. Like that's why in the second movie they're having a sex scene. Like they barely know each other. Like they've just kind of met.
So to that point,
so I don't know how much time. Yeah.
To that point, the fourth Underworld film was in development ever since 2009 when Len Wiseman came up with the story for the film. It was actually the first original sequel story starring Celine since the original.
Yeah.
The first 2 films
were
one long script. Yeah. So that makes sense why like the first 2 movies are basically kind of back to back. What am I saying here? Back to the Future 2 and 3. Like that kind of.
Film.
No, 1 and 2. No, 1 and 2. No, 2.
Yeah, because the second one, it's 2 and 3.
2 and 3, yeah, you're right.
That they did back to back.
Yeah.
Because the second one opens with them having, like, just killed Victor.
That's right.
And are, like, running.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's not an important thing to figure out, especially in these movies. We just got done talking about how suspension of disbelief is a massive part of all of these movies. But it is one of those things where it's just kind of like, okay, I guess they got pregnant. I guess that they took the baby. Like, there's all these steps where you're like, okay, I can connect the dots, but I'm having to do a lot of fucking work for somebody who isn't a screenwriter on these movies to get to where we're at.
No,
That's why the opening of this movie is a weird, like, reboot, kind of. It's not exactly, but like you've hit on all the things already. Like, they can time jump, which is cool. So we can say, all right, 12 years later, they're all immortal. Who gives a fuck? Like, no one knows. Like, or they're not really going to look any different. But then right away, like the stuff with Michael, I think is sad. Honestly, when they show him at the beginning, he doesn't look like him. It's just to your point. You're just kind of like, why didn't you guys just kill him? Or just have him be a thing where it's like, we don't know where Michael's at. She wakes up and she's having to find her kid, but she has no idea where Michael is. It would have served the same function in the movie.
But honestly, up until the point where she finds that frozen vat with, Subject 0 written on it, which, come on. I get it. Like, you don't want to like ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
But in what scientific establishment do you have a Subject 0?
Start counting at 0.
Like Patient 0, I understand as a.
I guess you can make that argument. He's the first hybrid, but yeah, I know what you mean. I thought
when you're talking
about that too.
Subjects, like scientific subjects, you start at 1. First, the first one, the first one that you get on with, the first one you collected, everything. But like
Steve, grab a pad of paper. Let's make a list 0 through 10.
Yeah,
no one says that shit.
Could they not have played around with the idea of like potentially he is, because originally when the movie starts, and not when it starts, but when it really gets going, and there's the escape scene. I thought, oh, Michael has escaped, and now he's like helped Celine escape, and he's subject number 2, and it all worked exactly as it should do, to the point that she discovers Eve, and you're surprised because it's a young girl.
Yeah.
But then at that point, you're like, okay, so if she's subject 2, you're not going to name her subject 2, because I'd already keyed into the fact that, oh, this is her kid, like. I remembered there being a long time ago somebody mentioned something about how she had a kid in one of them, and but even if not, like I felt like the clues were there close enough. You're not going to make
It's also literally, as far as I can remember, right, and it's also literally the first time I can remember in all of the movies that we see a child, and it's a child that looks a lot like Celine and is with Celine. Yeah. So there's like all these things right away where you're like, well, okay, obviously this is,
But he's not going to be subject number 3, so we're assuming now that he's dead, right? So what you could just have him missing. You could have the fact that they retrieved her body, but they couldn't retrieve his, or so. And as a result, because of that, they needed the daughter, so they allowed her to come to term under sedation, and she gave birth, and then they put her in the freezer. And then 12 years later, she's let out. But by the way, getting back to my point on India Isley, a wonderful performance from an actress that does not look her fucking age. So
Dude,
Eva's meant to be 11. India Isley, at the time of filming this, was 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah, so normally I don't bring up shit like this on podcasts, but I've done it on the Underworld movie specifically because it does feel like the place for me to partake in gossipy bullshit. So normally I'm not the guy who's like, did you see this thing that this celebrity did, or whatever, but I've done it a few times in this franchise, so I'm gonna do it again now. I clicked on her with all these actors, the people, especially the people I didn't know. I clicked on their names on Wikipedia to see who they were, because I like Michael Ealy, who plays the detective. I recognized him. I wasn't sure from what, stuff like that. So when I clicked on India Isley's name, I was like, okay, yeah, she's definitely older than I thought. Like, she's 32 now.
Yeah.
Which means, yeah, like you said, like doing the reverse math or whatever there. The weirdest part for me right now is that I don't know if they're still dating, but she is dating Henry Thomas, who played Elliot in E.T., which is so the whole rest of the movie, I'm watching this being like, this little hybrid girl is dating Elliot from like, there was so many aspects of it that were so surreal that I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is what a weird thing. So I'm not like talking shit. There's a big age gap between them, but they're both adults, whatever. Yeah. So, but it's just a weird, surreal Hollywood kind of, cause yeah, when you're watching the movie, she's a weird character in this movie, man. Like, I don't think she's bad. I don't even necessarily dislike her character. It's just one of those things where like, you read about the production on Wikipedia on the article for this movie, and like they just went in through so many situations from the sounds of it without a script. Yep. And we're just kind of figuring stuff out as they went, and the entire ending was changed at one point. It is a weird ending. It's like a fight in a parking garage, but it's really two fights. It's Eve fighting the werewolf guy, and then Celine fighting the big werewolf guy. And there's really no, like, they're just two different fights happening that kind of end close to the same time. Like, there's no, you would think that they would team up in some way or have some sort of, but you can tell kind of they probably just didn't have a plan. And so, anyway.
I didn't mind. I have to say, I didn't mind the fact that they were both having separate fights. The fact that they ended at the same time is one. But like the fact that Eve gets to take on the Doctor, who is almost like, baby's first fight.
Right. No, it is. Like, I don't mind that. I don't mind that either. But it's like, I don't know. It's a weird situation where you're adding more by trying to solve a problem. You're adding more complications to it to try to like, you're adding more tape and glue to this house of cards to get it to not fall. So it's just becoming more and more unbelievable and ugly, and it's not falling, but it's more complicated than if you would have just kept it simple, and or more dangerous, let's say. And with this, it feels that way for a lot of the movie, and you can feel it throughout the entire thing, which is that like, okay, well now we already had this problem kind of with Michael and introducing him, and like, okay, now this guy's really powerful. And then we did it again with Celine, and now we're combining these two things together, screenwriting problems, into a new one, which is like, and now there's a girl who has both of them. But then they just go crazy with the two. Theo James's character dies at one point. Celine fucking brings him back to life. Like, there's some wild sort of, like, I don't know that she has an ability to bring him back to life, as much as it's just kind of like her blood's extra spiked, so he got that juice, but then she manually pumps his heart. Like, there's, anyway. they just keep, so then Theo James, I think, do they show in this movie? It might be in the next movie. I'm pretty sure he can walk around in the fucking sunlight now, too, because he has her blood. So they just keep compounding and expanding this stuff out, as opposed to keeping it like I watched this movie, and even though I didn't hate it and had fun watching it, there is part of me that's like, why didn't you just take this same sort of idea if you wanted to do this thing with the daughter and make it a mother and daughter on the run kind of movie? You could make it smaller. It would be, you get scenes of them getting to know each other. Like, they're just all these things where it's like, it would have been easier to, like, there's easier ways to do this already sort of cliche kind of thing. Just kind of needless. You can see the duct tape, I think.
Yeah,
I think an easier way of saying it.
The reason they obviously were very keen to tell this story about how the Lycans once again had managed to get under the radar and were kind of pulling the strings from behind the curtains or from the sewers or wherever you want to say. I have to say, I felt like the whole reveal that Anti-Gen, or whatever they're called, were basically a company of wolves. There's a pun for you. Oh man, that just came off the top of my head as well. I'm on fire today.
Yeah, nice. Check out our Company of Wolves episode.
We did do an
that we
episode on
years
Company
ago.
of Wolves, yeah. I'll have to get that uploaded if I haven't already. That whole reveal, although it was kind of cool, I suddenly was asking myself all sorts of questions. For instance, how the hell did she escape at the beginning of that movie if the entire security staff were werewolves? Or is this something that happened in between her escaping and her coming back again? Like, it's just there are some areas, and again, like I liked this film well enough. You know, it was an entertaining, however much time it was, hour and a half. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
90 minutes. Yeah, it's like 90. I would say almost
86.
exactly 90 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. So not perfect.
Oh shit,
but
shorter.
not
Okay.
far off. It's it entertained me throughout. There were a few moments where I was like, doors have got P written on them. And then like the whole Michael disappearing for a large part of the movie and then bringing him back really with no great payoff. It would have made more sense to me if she had done what she did and, you know, shot the tank to let him defrost. If at the very last minute he swooped, I don't know. If he just dived in and made the swooped, yes. English, first language, you'd never tell. If he had just swooped in for the save at the end, then that would have made a lot of sense. But also it would have taken a lot of agency away from both Selena and from Eve. And Eve is already suffering from her agency having been taken away from what's happened to her before this movie, and also the fact that David kind of has to save her at one point as well, which is a nice kind of like, look, I'm still alive and I'm still doing the right thing moment for him. And makes more sense why he then will go on to be in the next movie, because I spied that cast list and oh boy, I'm looking forward to that movie. I'm looking forward to seeing how Eve becomes the chosen. What do you mean she's not in the movie? Oh shit, really? Well, that's terrible.
Man, I didn't even remember that. I think that I started watching Blood Wars one time because it came out United States
2006. No. 18?
Well, right, January 6, 2017. So I would have had a 3-month-old at home. And so that's why I didn't go see it. So I remember later on, once it was on digital, I think I watched the first like 15 minutes of it. And I remember, similar to Welcome to Raccoon City so far, where I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Well,
what is this?
I've not read the plot synopsis for that movie because for my sins, I want to go in relatively blind. But the fact that Eve wasn't listed as a character on the cast list, I was like, okay, I need to know what's going on here. So I read just enough to know what the deal is there, and I'm very disappointed with them. Like, genuinely very disappointed with them. But that's a movie for another day. We will review it at some point, I'm sure. Coming back to this one, I felt the ending was a bit strange. It's like the police dude says, what's his name? Detective Sebastian or something like that. I'm gonna like tell them you went the other way, make you get away as quick as you can. And instead of doing that, they go up on the fucking roof with helicopters going around and, you know, searchlights and like, oh look, there are obviously people on the helipad. They haven't made their getaway, have they? But then also like Michael has made his getaway, and it's like that's the big cliffhanger is, oh well, the next movie. Basically, they'd already made up their mind at this point. Like when we make the next movie, because we are overconfident that this is going to succeed. And in fairness, it kind of did. Our next movie is going to be finding Michael. Like that's going to be the entire plot of the next one, is kind of bringing him back home and reuniting the family unit of Celine and Eve and Michael. And it's a confident way to end a movie when you have no guarantees. I would have preferred a movie that had a more distinct ending. And to that point, I think maybe, as heartbreaking as it would be, either discover that he didn't make it or have absolutely no idea where he is and what he's doing are the two better options where it comes to how this film plays out, especially because you kind of don't want to take away from the fact that Eve is like the next great hope for vampire kind, or for all,
right.
You know, because she's a hybrid, right? So really it shouldn't just be the vampires, it should be the lichens as well. It's just, the ending is a bit weird, but like overall, it's a absolutely fine entertainment movie. Just a bit weird.
Yeah, that's one of the things that drives me crazy about this movie too. And it's again one of those things where it's like, not really, because my expectations are very low for this franchise in general. But the that's one thing that the first 3 movies are so like, it's such a huge part of them is the covens, the like power dynamic and hierarchy and everything else. Like, I understand that at the end of the second one they've disrupted that, but it is odd that in this one there's kind of nothing anymore. Like there's remnants of stuff, like Charles Dance's coven or whatever, like they're like basically what's left, they're in hiding or whatever. But with the Lycans, I feel like they've always been set, like had this role as like, oh yeah, they're obviously the bad guys because Celine is our protagonist. She's a vampire, so the vampires are the good guys. Over the course of the first movie, she realizes the vampires aren't necessarily the good guys. They've been lying. And then on top of that, the backstory for fucking Wesley Snipes. God damn it, what's his name? That's his character. No, Austin and I call him Wesley Snipes because he plays Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen had a guest spot role on 30 Rock, the Tina Fey sitcom, where he plays a love interest for her character, Liz Lemon, and his name is Wesley Snipes, like his character name.
Right, okay.
And she like can't get past it because like it's like it sounds like a very British name, but like in America we could only think of Blade.
Yeah.
So anyway, whenever he comes up in conversation now, for years Austin and I still call him Wesley Snipes. Michael Sheen, his character, who has a name I can't remember. It's not Victor. It's not Craven. Lucian,
yeah,
something like that. You find out that his character, not only is he not a bad guy, but like is a pretty great guy. And then we find out in the third movie, like, was this, hero leading this like slave revolt. And yeah, like it's this whole, and then we get into this movie and like, again, I get that everything's kind of falling apart, but it's at the point now where it's like, there's not really vampires. There's kind of Lycans. Also, the Lycans are the bad guys and have absolutely zero depth. Like, it's just these new bad guys. Like, these new guys that also happen to be Lycans, but they are, I guess, assholes. But we don't really get to know them. We don't...
Also, what's really disappointing about that, right, is that I feel like there's a version of the script out there where the evil doctor dude is human and has weaponized Lycans to go after the vampires, and so you keep the central kind of story, which was humans bad, humans do genocide, because ultimately the beginning of the movie is about humankind wiping out the vampires and the Lycans, not in one purge, but in 2. They had 2 purges. And while I can understand how you could justify it from the human point of view of, oh, there are these other things out there and the vampires drink our blood and the werewolves are just monsters and there is that fear of them. At the same time, it's, we're watching a movie which is based on a vampire heroine. We're going to take the side of the vampire heroine. So if her people have been wiped out by the humans are obviously at best misguided and at worst genocidal maniacs.
I was going to say, even that whole purge conceit doesn't really make sense in this world because, as you've pointed out, on both sides there are normal people who have this thing. Like it's not, there aren't moral lines that are drawn where it's like, if you are a vampire, well, then that means you're evil. You're going to do whatever. Like, there are ones that are like that, but there are also ones that are like that on the Lycan side too. Yeah. So it really doesn't make sense because at the end of the day, like, yeah, like even Michael, like when he's not hybrided out, he's like a normal dude. He can walk. And I get that he can be in sunlight, right? So yeah, there is. Anyway, it's one of those things that it's like kind of annoying and frustrating because it's like you want them to have done better, more, maybe not even more obvious, but like better tropes that we're used to that are right there. And in a lot of these movies, you look at it and you're just like, why the fuck did you guys do this? Like, I don't understand like you made it more difficult or more complicated or more confusing in a way that like, you could have had a line of dialogue fix that, but okay, that's fine. The other, let me see, go through my fucking random ass notes here. Weird fake Michael is sad. Talked about that already. Oh, I did like how, so I have a 2-part note here. I like how this one is more consistently brutal and violent. And then the second part of the note is the CGI blood still looks like shit though. So I had mixed feelings on that. I did like how from beginning to the end of the movie, right away, Celine like fucking kicks a dude in the face and like pops his head against a wall. Like it's gorier than the first 3 movies have been. The first 3 movies are rated R. They've been violent, have had their moments of gore, but this one, like in the just regular ass fight scenes where Celine's fighting like 15, just nondescript white dudes in a hallway. Like there's compound fractures and she's fucking bending people in half. Like there's a lot of stuff where I felt like, okay, this is the stuff that I felt like was missing at times in some of the first ones with their speed and their power and everything else. Like we talked in the second movie about that part where she briefly fights some dudes in the woods and they do some like effects with how fast she's moving, where we were like, that shit was cool. Like,
yes.
Yeah, more of that. So I felt like this movie did more of that, but they didn't have as much money, or the the visual effects team wasn't as good. I'm not sure who to point the finger at, but it didn't look great. Like most of the time, the effects consistently, I think, looked kind of bad, at least in that like CG sort of like smooth kind of artificial way. Very similar to a lot of the stuff that happens in like the second half of the Resident Evil movies. But I did applaud I felt like in general there was more energy and like invention and creativity and fun with the camera angles and the shots and the way the energy of the fights and everything else. It definitely felt like we had new directors in the chair.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy that, even though it again wasn't great. Like it's not very polished, and I'm sure age has only hurt it. I don't think it's helped. I did enjoy that. I did like how the fights are a little bit more brutal.
I felt like it was a lot more action heavy. Like they wanted to do more fight choreography, more fights in general. They wanted to have a range of different. I have to say the lift scene where she's taking on a werewolf at the bottom, or a lichen, sorry, at the bottom of the lift shaft. And then Quint drops a lift on her. Yeah, sorry, I'll call it a lift because British.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's basically the inverse of the scene from the first movie where she shoots a hole in the floor and drops down.
Exactly.
She shoots a hole in the floor of a room falling on her.
Yeah. And then so she just like knuckles down and just bursts through the bottom of this elevator afterwards. It's like, I like that. Like it had a little bit of invention to it. It's not something that you've seen too often in movies. But like generally, like the kill count on the movie is up, and I think that is something that a lot of people have often said about action movies in general. Certainly, I remember there was a lot of discourse about Rambo versus Rambo 2. Like the kill count, and then the fact that every Rambo movie had to have a bigger kill count than the last one. Yeah, and it became a joke in the end. I can't remember who it was that made the joke, but. Oh, God. No, it's gone. By the way, previous thing that went from my head entirely, Miss Saigon. Great musical. Should go and watch it. It's got a fucking helicopter that flies onto the stage. Right. Congratulations, everyone that got that right in the comments. But yeah, so it definitely feels more action heavy, but it feels like directors who want to do action but maybe don't necessarily have that level of experience and also bearing in mind, like you said, this is a movie from 2012. We've had 14 years since then where movies have built upon what previous movies have brought before them. And not every movie is going to absolutely nail it like The Matrix did at the turn of the century. And it feels weird saying the turn of the century, but it's a thing. And maybe this is just one of those movies that couldn't quite manage it, but then other movies have come on since then, and they've been like, we like what they were trying to do, let's try and do it better. And, those movies have done a fantastic job. And there are movies like, it's not the same at all, but bear with me. Which one of the X-Men movies was it where the house blows up and Quicksilver basically pulls them? It's like Days of Future Past or one of those ones.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. Like they have
it might be Apocalypse actually.
It could have been, but like they have 2 films back to back where Quicksilver does his like slowed down time running really fast thing.
Yeah, that's why I said it might have been Apocalypse actually because they did it twice in a row.
Yeah. And both of them are absolutely fantastic, and they're the opposite of Celine moving really fast and taking people out because we're seeing it from the lead character's point of view rather than the point of view of the victims. Yeah, that makes it sound worse, doesn't it? But still,
I thought about that though, because she is like, especially in those scenes. Again, it's one of those things where it's like you can't really complain about this in a movie like this, but there is some part of me that's like, she's murdering all these dudes. Even after she finds out they're Lycans, there's still a thing there where I'm like, didn't you learn a lot of lessons in the past, like, you know,
weren't there janitors on the Death Star?
Yeah, like you know for a fact that this isn't just like a species thing. Like this is So anyway, but
I think,
I'm trying to think. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think there's a lot of movies that really do actually make that mistake, and you know, they're like, well, people want to see a body count. They don't want to think about what's actually, you know, who do these characters that are dying for your enjoyment go home to of a night?
Right. Well, and usually in movies like this, they pivot to some sort of, like, fucking James Cameron just did this in the third Avatar movie. Like, we side so heavily with the Na'vi in those first two movies. Like, it could not be more clear that the humans are in the wrong. Like, not only is it genocide, but it's like, you know, horrible for the environment. They're fucking destroying this planet. Like, all this stuff that's very clear. But in the third movie, they're like, well, there's some other Na'vi that are bad because we need to fight them. Like, you've got to... Usually you would think, like, okay, I can buy into this... It's not engine, that's from Jurassic Park. Antigen, whatever it's fucking called. Yeah. In this movie, being covertly run by a company of wolves, which whenever you've said that, I have thought about it as they're in business suits at desks.
Yep.
Which kind of is what they are during the day in this movie, I guess. That whole... I forgot where I was going with this because of the Company of Wolves thing, which, by the way, I looked up. Stephen Ray, who plays the like lead Lycan in this, who he fights at the end, was in Company of Wolves, the movie, because I knew he was in The Crying Game. So I was like, shit, I wonder if he was also the Company of Wolves,
that
same director.
Sense.
And he was.
Yeah.
He's like, his credit is like young groom, so we probably didn't even clock him when we watched the movie.
Maybe.
Anyway, yeah, the only other thing I wrote here on my notes that I haven't hit on, two things. One of them is about as Chris Farley show-esque as you can get, which is 10 out of 10 choice on the pea coat over the latex. Thought that was a great look. Was very into that. Yeah. I was like, this to me is the ideal of taking the like Matrix inspired fetishy sort of latex thing that we did in the first movie, especially in the first movie and then the second one too, and like give it a cool modern look. I thought it looked great. Like I was like, no notes on this peacoat thing. I hope she keeps it in every movie. Although in the next movie, I'm pretty sure she has some like fucking
not like,
only mink like
yeah,
like they've got some like crazy winter outfits
cold,
in the
right?
second one.
Like she goes to the Arctic or something. Not only does she not keep the peacoat for the next movie, she doesn't even keep it for this movie.
Yeah,
like she gets 10 minutes in, she exchanges it for a PVC leather number when she's leaving the coven, and then literally 5 minutes after that, she ditches that one because she's about to go into battle or something. And I'm like,
it's so funny how that's part of the movie, and also when you read on Wikipedia, it was part of. There were sequences, like there was a sequence early on where she was escaping Antigen and she's naked, and they were like, this is going to be a nightmare because we're going to have to cut all around the nudity and obscure and everything else.
Yeah.
And she was going to get her outfit later, and they were like, let's give her outfit right. So it's funny how like even that is a thing where it's like, no, we got to have the outfit's an important part. But I thought that the peacoat edition, great, 10 out of 10. Thought it was good.
You see, for me, and I know I've got the benefit of hind legs when I'm saying this, but when you're doing an escape and you're worried about a character being naked for like a fight scene, because obviously she comes out of the vat naked, there are so many more natural ways of doing it than, we index her outfit and put it in a cabinet just for reasons.
Welcome to this movie. Why didn't you do it one of 4 easier ways?
Yeah, like surely there's a lab coat hanging up somewhere. Right?
Well, and also like I get that I think part of the reason it works in the Matrix
aesthetics.
And part of the reason it works in the Matrix is because it is aesthetics. When they are wearing that shit in the Matrix, it's because they're wanting to wear it as just like their avatar.
But that's their loadout. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right, exactly. It's their loadout. So they don't dress like that in the real world. And so
they would if they could, though. Let's be honest.
Maybe that's probably true. But there is a thing in this movie that, especially by this point at this time, you're just like. And I mean, we've seen other movies like Edgar Wright's done jokes like this. Like you could easily do a very funny comedic cutaway to all this shit going down. They're trying to find subject, 2 or whoever the fuck, or 1, whoever the girl was. There's alarms going off. Celine's freaking the fuck out, and then we cut to her like having to get into this outfit.
Oh,
it's
like,
the most impractical. These like fucking huge
talcum powder
boots.
and
like it is not like it would honestly probably be more practical to run out naked than it would be to try to get all that shit on. But I don't know, maybe that's another one of her vampiric powers is. She can fucking bring people back to life in this movie.
Well, technically she's dead, so she doesn't have clammy skin. She doesn't sweat, so she doesn't actually have any binding issues when putting PVC and latex on. I'm at this point, I'm kind of over her having to wear a corset and latex in every movie, and I'm kind of feeling like she probably wouldn't mind if she could not downgrade, but maybe side grade into like some tight-fitting cargo trousers and a roll neck tank top or something. Like keep it black, because you don't want to get rid of that black aesthetic. But I think what we learned from The Matrix is that everyone's got this idea that everyone in The Matrix wore like PVC, and if you actually look at what Neo wears from memory, it was a pair of like army issue boots, cargo trousers, some kind of merino wool roll neck top, and a long leather overcoat.
I think it's just a black T-shirt. Like honestly,
no, you're right.
It's really only Trinity that has the latex, and it's mostly a cup. She doesn't always wear it either, but it's the all black. And then I think with her being latex, our minds sometimes fill in latex for everything else.
I think so. But
there's other people in it who have it.
Like latex overcoats were fairly common in there from memory. But again, that could be me filling in the blanks. But like, I would not have a problem with Celine coming back for another movie and having a slightly more utilitarian and practical outfit.
Oh, sure. Dude, The Matrix did it. In The Matrix Reloaded, when Neo shows up, that's one of my favorite things that they did with the aesthetics in that movie and the subsequent movies is that they update his wardrobe. Like, again, that's why I think the latex thing really is kind of Trinity's thing, because even in Reloaded, when Neo shows up, he still has like the long coat and stuff, but it's a different fabric. Like it looks not only more like you said utilitarian, but also just more mature. Like it looks nicer. Like it looks like he's more comfortable. I mean, I didn't expect
less
to talk about clothes in these movies so much, but totally. I think that's part of why the peacoat, when she put it on, I was like, fuck yeah. Like
I dug it.
Celine's growing up. Like,
like
it
army
looks cool.
surplus kind of thing. Like I was kind of hoping she'd just change her entire outfit while she was there, to be honest.
I wouldn't be surprised if the corset and latex are gone in the next one. I don't remember. I could be wrong, but it does feel like, it also feels like one of those things that Kate Beckinsale, if I were her, and I at this point am in my probably 40s, I would be like, I'm fucking done wearing this goddamn corset. Like, I don't want to wear this shit anymore. I didn't like wearing this in my 20s. I'm guessing is what she would say. I'm sure they can't be fun to wear. Dude, the only other thing I wrote down in my notes, and this is kind of dark, but when I was watching it, I was like, man, what a misguide. Like, I would not have left this scene in. There's a part where I get these movies aren't for kids. Like, I get that they're rated R. But like both these movies and the Twilight movies, like there's a pretty heavy Venn diagram overlap between those two franchises and Hot Topic, I think, and those sorts of vibes and aesthetics, and preteen boys and girls, like all preteen kids. Let's say all these sort of fandoms or whatever else. I didn't necessarily love that we have a scene where a preteen girl is very slowly self-harming herself. Like, I thought that scene was odd, where it was like, I know that I could watch this as an adult, but like, if I was like a 13-year-old kid watching this, and these were things I was already struggling with, like, it's a weird, because it is it's a kind of creepy scene in the sense that like the camera's like slowly panning either in or out, and we're not breaking away, and she's like slowly cutting her arm, in like a very self-harmy sort of cutter way, and then watching it heal up. And I get that aspect, but again, it's also kind of a bad message to send to kids. Again, I know that this isn't for, I don't know. It was just, when I saw the shot, I was just like, I don't fucking know that this was this is weird. I wouldn't have left this in.
I don't think it was needed.
No.
I can understand from a couple of points of view why they put it in there, because first of all, as you've already mentioned, this is conceivably the first time that she's used her healing powers, so she's kind of playing around with these new abilities that she has, but also on top of that, it gives them a shorthand excuse for how do we get Celine to show tenderness towards her child that she's only just realised is her child?
Right.
And the first thing she does when she comes in is she sits down and she very gently takes the knife from her. And then they have this conversation about how, yesterday I was with your father and today it's 12 years later and my heart's broken. That felt like a little bit of a script misstep, because she probably should have said something along the lines of, my heart is broken and full at the same time because I have you now.
Right.
Like it felt
yet again, you could have done this 3 or 4 different better ways. Like,
exactly.
Or even that thing, like have that happen in a fight. Have her get fucking cracked across the face by a lichen, and then notice in the reflection of the car mirror or something that it heals up. Like you can have her, figure out that she has these abilities in a different way than like a slow self-harming scene.
Well,
I don't know.
I imagine
There's
the
part
moment
of
where she's healing herself, she realizes what's happening and she comes to terms with, oh look, new power, I can heal myself. I just need to have some blood. But yeah, it's like, also, have we? I feel like we must have. Have we seen? Yes, we have. We've seen vampires feeding on each other in this series before, right? Because at the very least, she fed on Michael in one of the movies, because that's how she got the whole I can walk in the daylight thing now.
Not Michael. It was the old
Michael?
dude. It was the
you're right. Yes.
grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think but I think they have, though, now that you say that, because one of them, was it Celine? No, it was Michael. She makes Michael drink her blood at one point because he's freaking the fuck out and like he's gonna die and stuff. And
is that before he's a true hybrid though, or because he becomes
I think
a werewolf?
It's after.
Okay.
Yeah, because that stuff happens almost immediately. Like Lucian bites him in the elevator.
Yeah.
Like first time he shows up, and so from that point on, he's a hybrid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I guess that's true. Which is kind of a break from normal. Usually that they can't do shit like that in vampire lore.
Yeah, well, I was thinking of that one movie whose title, predictably, I cannot remember. But there was it a Blade? No, it wasn't a Blade sequel. There's a movie where there are vampires everywhere and there's not enough blood to go around, and so the vampires that feed on each other end up mutating and becoming these horrific.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's Daybreakers. I like
That's
that movie.
the one. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
A movie that I really enjoyed but can't remember the name of.
Yeah.
I just
Willem
remember
Dafoe,
that there was a
fucking...
Neighbours actress in it playing the bad guy's daughter, and she ends up becoming a vampire, and then I think he puts her out in the sunlight.
Yeah, the movie's cool. Ethan Hawke.
It's a good film. But yeah,
there's a part at the beginning where he comes home and one of those like fucking mutated vampires has like broken into his house.
Yeah. Like I like it when vampire movies do something a bit different with it and play around with the formula. Maybe not so much with that Blade movie where suddenly vampires have got predator jaws on them, but to each their own.
Del Toro's got to do his thing.
Hey, yeah, look, I dug the film. I wasn't entirely sure about
I know what you mean.
The direction of the vampires. Although, to be fair, Del Toro then absolutely nailed it with the TV series.
Well, and also like with shit like that, the further there's always the thing of like how much of this is it still vampires until like how much can we stretch this until it's something else, to where we're in new territory where it's like, well, we're not really dealing with vampires anymore, I guess, because we've messed with it too much.
Also,
like but I agree. I like that idea of like, okay, we have some of these rules, let's subvert them a little bit. In this world, this is how this shit works, and they can add on to that or whatever.
So yeah, there was, just to sidetrack it again very quickly and run over the three people rather than the one person. I'm all about the references today, baby. Something that occurred to me was because I've not really read Dracula fully and not read it at all for a very long time. Were they ever super specific about what a vampire looks like? Because like we've been informed by the very earliest vampire fiction, like Count Orlok in The Vampire, that they've got two like fangs, and then later on with the 30s version of Dracula, he's got two fangs, but they're further apart because I guess they look better aesthetically. Like, was the original definition of a vampire, was the description of a vampire ever that, well, he's just a dude but he's got two fangs, or is it more kind of, well, they feed on blood but we haven't really nailed down the description? Because I'm just wondering, like, these movies like Daybreakers and the TV series The Strain, like they've got these really kind of strange, otherworldly versions of what vampires could be. But was it ever so that Dracula, 1930s Dracula, is basically what a vampire should look like?
I think so. I think the answer is vast, because it's one of those well, truly well, like, I think the answer is pretty big, because it is one of the oldest like monster archetypes we have in horror fiction in terms of like an existing,
and even before fiction with myth and
right, that's what I mean, that's what I should say, with folklore, everything else. So there was a podcast that Grady Hendrix did. I'm sure I talked about it on the show back when I listened to it. He's a writer. He's done tons of books, but is also, I want to say, an educator. I could be wrong. He might not be formally trained as an educator, but I want to say that he also is a teacher. The way that this podcast was set up was it was fun and goofy. It also had, this is a weird shot to make, but I always will remember this. It also had, bar none, the worst fucking audio production I've ever heard on any pod. I had to crank that motherfucker up all the way to hear it. Anyway.
Oh, man.
Maybe he's fixed it since then. But the content was great, and it was essentially him going through like a horror. It was like teaching horror and the history of horror through like a classroom sort of setting, and it was tongue-in-cheek and everything else. But I remember specifically the first like 5 episodes are about vampires, so like 5 full episodes, because there's so much lore and there's so much history, and then each country has their own mythology and lore and everything about how things spread there, which informed other things. Like there's this whole like Chinese jumping vampires, like that's a whole fucking section of vampires that like most people probably don't know about, but are huge, like, and historically played a part, and we see references in different movies, but we don't necessarily clock that it's a reference to that, because our American perception of and our history of American vampires is different too. And that's not even counting the like, you know, quote unquote traditional European vampires that we like think about as like the default. So all that to say, I think that it's one of those things that my guess is, because this is how it kind of happens with some of the other ones, and I'm like looking at the Universal monsters in particular, is that there is a pop culture defining version that sort of sets the template. And we see this with other ones too, like zombies. There were zombie movies before Night of the Living Dead and before Romero, but like most of the zombie rules we have are his. And I think that that's kind of what ends up happening. So if I had to guess, it would be Stoker with Dracula set the like main iteration with the book. I don't remember the thing with the teeth. I don't know if it was specifically said that the teeth were together, because in Nosferatu they are, right? They're like in the front.
Yeah, they're the front 2 teeth, yeah.
And so I don't remember on that, but I know like a lot of the other shit in like the coffin and the staking and like all that stuff obviously comes from there. Or at least was like, I think really driven into like the zeitgeist, like the cultural consciousness, whatever you want to call it, of that. But then I think for a lot of these other newer versions, part of what's happening, especially in stuff like The Strain, is that these are creative people who know and love and appreciate the history and the lore of vampires. So they're bringing some of that old shit back in. Like the new Nosferatu, is that what it was? Yeah, it was. The new Nosferatu movie, which you have not seen yet, right?
No.
So what's his name who plays Nosferatu, or Count Orlok? Fucking dude from Pennywise from It. One of the Swedish brothers.
God damn it, yeah.
I can't remember any other names. Skarsgård. Not Alexander. Not Stellan. I can't remember his name.
I should know from you saying Skarsgård. It's not Ben. It's like,
no. God damn it. He was the Crow. Anyway,
we're
that
really
dude.
Sorry, younger Skarsgård, brother.
That dude. He plays Orlok in the movie, and that iteration, that version. Part of it, I think, is because. What's his name? Who made the movie? Who made The Lighthouse and The Witch is maybe a little bit up his own ass and pretentious, but it is also a thing where it's like he's hearkening back to and pulling from some of those like older iterations of vampires. So the version of Orlok we see in that new Nosferatu movie looks like a gross Bill Skarsgård. Thank you, Dave. a gross like. Old decrepit dude. He doesn't really look like a cool like I want to suck your blood. Like it's not that shit. It's a much, but it also is kind of in line with that older stuff. So anyway, give it like a long convoluted answer. That's my take. I think is that it's the ones like Frankenstein's monster, like, I would say if you polled people, 9 out of 10 are gonna describe it as Karloff. Like, if you asked him to be described, and that's not really what he looks like in the book. So I think it does come with, you know, what is the cultural consciousness template that's been set, and what is that from? Yeah. Similarly to, I think that whole idea is interesting too. We have it in other franchises like Friday the 13th. Like that's a you know, like a trivia 101 question for horror fans of like, who was the killer in the first Friday, because it's not Jason, but everybody thinks of Jason because that's what stuck. And
but also like the look of Jason was defined in visual media first. Not until the third movie. Yeah, but that is what hit and what stuck. So if I would imagine it has happened many times over the years that a casual fan, or not even a fan, let's just say somebody who's like, oh, Friday the 13th part 2 is on. Let's watch this. Like Pamela Voorhees is not the killer, but yeah, he's wearing a fucking potato sack on his head. So it's that whole concept to me is really interesting. I would imagine that Grady Hendrix podcast is still out there. I'll find it and I'll send it to you, Dave, and you can add it in the show notes, because it was talking about this and very specifically. I would like to listen to it as well as share it with everyone listening today. And also, I'm
get some good speakers.
Just minded of the fact that I have picked up on that I, for some reason, said Count Orlok in The Vampire when it is Nosferatu. But I'm going to leave it in because that's the kind of honest moron that I really am.
The only other thing I had in my notes, I follow a guy on Letterboxd named Paul Reynolds, I believe is his name, his last name. Actually, wait, that might be Scott Reynolds. I don't know who this guy is. I'll look it up while I'm talking. But there's most of the people I follow on Letterboxd I usually either knew from other like horror podcasts, or they are filmmakers or writers or whatever themselves. And this particular guy, let's see, he doesn't even have a last name. I don't know why I follow this guy. I must have just liked his reviews. He also follows me. Honestly, it was probably out of back into the Shockwaves when that was still a podcast. They had like a Shockwaves movie club Facebook group, and people would post. Yeah, it's probably from that era. Anyway, his review for Underworld Awakening, I really liked the way he described something, because I felt like it summed up exactly how I feel watching this movie in particular. These movies in general, but this movie in particular. He gave it 3 stars, and he said, more of the same, but that's not a bad thing. I'm not sure if I'm Team Resident Evil or Team Underworld yet. Spoiler, hybrids become yet another plot point, but from a different interested party. And then this is the sentence that I thought summed this up really well. He was like taking a popcorn bowl and scraping the floor only to find a full bucket. What else do you have to do? I was like, man, what a perfect, because that's the extra edge you need in that metaphor. Is not that it's a popcorn movie, it's that you drag an empty bowl of popcorn, a bucket of popcorn across the ground, and then it unexpectedly comes up full, and you're like, well, I guess I'll eat this floor popcorn. Like, that's what this movie is. I thought that was so perfect. When I read that, I was like, this is fucking poetry. Like, this is a great way to sum up this franchise and this movie in particular, because that's where I was at. I was never bored. I think I watched it in two different settings.
There's a saying that's fairly popular in the UK, at least I've heard it from friends and family over the years, and it goes something like this: it's like dropping a fiver and finding 20 quid.
Yeah, there you go.
Now the opposite one of that is dropping 20 quid and finding a fiver. Now you can use them interchangeably, but no, actually you can't. One of them is very obviously like, well, I've had a shit day, even though something good happened. It was still
to me. This is like dropping a fiver and then someone saying like, I'm going to give you 20 quid, but I'm also going to piss on your face. But you get the 20 quid. I would be like,
yeah, fair
right.
deal. Yeah,
all right. I can wash the piss off.
15 quid for a golden shower is the going rate. So yeah, what the hell.
And in case the Swedish directors hear this podcast, I'm not comparing your movie to being pissed on my face. I did literally just do that, but it's better than that. Anyway, yeah. Do you have any other big thoughts on this, Dave? I think I'm pretty much wrapped up. No, I feel good about this one. I was pretty exhausted going into it. When we landed on it being an Underworld week, I was like, oh, I don't fucking know if I can.
I remember.
But I feel okay now.
4 it is, God damn it, I believe was your reply. No, I mean, my only real thought would be, as just in case the directors do get their ears on this somehow, But even if not, I think it's worth just saying that, yeah, I think that they put together a really entertaining film. And even though I said what I said about the action scenes, I think that there is a decent amount of promise there in their direction of the action. And I would be interested to see if they had any other films that came out afterwards that kind of went into the action realm, just to see how they did it, where they took it, especially if it was more of a, SWAT than an Underworld, where it was more kind of like just human beings being human beings kind of thing. No fast forward special effects, just gunfights between good old fashioned human beings. So yeah, I haven't looked it up, but
I was going to say I did look them up briefly, and they had made a handful of other. Well, that's random. One of the two dudes had a kid with Tuppence Middleton, actress from.
Oh,
yeah, he's with her apparently. I don't know if they're still together, but anyway, they went on to do more stuff. I believe I saw it on Letterboxd. Let me click on their names here, because if I remember correctly,
one of
it
them
was
did The Bridge.
I was going to say a lot of them were other Swedish things.
Yeah.
That I didn't know, but then there were a few things on there that I was able to click on where I was like, okay, I've heard of this. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I know of it. So I think that they've continued to have careers, but this seems to be like the one. I don't know what The Bridge is though.
Oh, so there was a big boom in Scandi drama, probably about 5 to 10 years ago, and The Bridge is a story about a murder that has to be investigated by. I'm going to get the countries wrong here, so please don't hurt me in the comments. Basically, there's a bridge that connects two Nordic countries. I think it's like Sweden and Denmark.
Okay,
And
never mind. I know why I know this now, because they did it in Britain as the tunnel.
It was redone as the tunnel, yes.
That's right.
Between
Okay.
France and the UK. And because they couldn't determine which side of the border the murder had happened, both police forces end up having to cooperate and investigate it. And yeah, as you said, it was remade as the tunnel for British audiences, and it was part of that big Scandi drama boom of the era. So yeah.
Apparently, they also did an American version, also called The Bridge. I did not know about any of this shit.
Between America and Canada, I guess?
It is the bridge being the bridge of the Americas, so El Paso, and Juarez.
Mexico and
Mexico. Yeah, there's also a German-Austrian one, Der Pass.
Okay.
There's a
lot of these.
Yeah, I didn't know this.
God damn you,
Anyway.
Scandinavians, with your amazing drama that everyone else has to adapt.
So yeah, I think that they've definitely, it seems like, continued to have careers and everything else, just not been in Hollywood.
Yeah.
American Hollywood.
Honestly, kind of a shame, but also really happy for them for finding their success where they found it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if your first foray into American Hollywood filmmaking, if it was this movie, if you're like, let's go back home and do our, not in like a shitty way, but just in a way of like, we could probably do this, if not much better and for less money, back where we're at. It's not like they, came in at a particular corner, I think, of the industry. Also 4 entries in, whatever. But
Yeah.
but yeah. It's I did feel them in this movie, and I felt like that was a good thing, even though overall there were maybe issues or complaints that I had at times. I did feel the energy from them as directors. Wiseman's a weird director, dude. Like he did the first 2. I've seen other movies he's done. We talked a little bit about Ballerina and how they had to have people come in and help reshoot the action for him. Like he's competent. I think he knows how to do it, but there isn't the first movie still is my favorite one. Of the ones that we've watched, there is a style and a flair that's going on there, but even that one doesn't have as much energy in a lot of ways as this one did. So definitely, credit them for that. I don't know. We didn't do double feature picks for the other movies, did we?
I don't remember us doing so, no.
I don't think we did. So I don't think I picked one. Did I write anything down? Yeah, I don't think I picked one. So who cares? Let's not do it. So next time Andy is out, we will return to the franchise and finish it out with Underworld Blood Wars, which came out in 2016. I believe I'm double checking here. Yeah, I believe at this point, once we get to Blood Wars, not only are we at the end of the series, we're also at the first installment that has really no connection creatively to the other films in terms of people involved. It's brand new screenwriters, directors, everything else. Obviously, some of the cast is still in the mix. Celine, Theo James. I guess Celine is her character's name. Kate Beckinsale, Theo James. Charles Dance, I think, comes back in the next one. But it's kind of a new, just like new team, new whatever world. And it is also the only one that neither of us have seen. So I am excited to watch it. I have pretty low expectations. I have never heard anyone say anything good about it. So that's probably not a good sign. But I'm curious to see how it all wraps up and where they leave it. And I would imagine there are going to be multiple Newt Hicks-esque frustrations that we'll have with them, just because I'm pretty sure Scott Speedman's not in it. So I would guess that they write out Michael and Eve both.
Do I tell you what I know?
I don't give a fuck. You can tell me.
They did recast Michael for the next movie.
Oh, okay. So is he in it? Like in it?
That's the thing. I haven't read far enough to spoil myself, but I assume that
because he's
Michael is
in this movie. Technically.
Yeah. So what I'm assuming is that Michael is in the next one, and Eve gets the Michael in Part 4 treatment. Which I'm fucking annoyed about, but we'll see.
They just keep swapping them around. Yeah. Dude, isn't it also crazy too that like Bill Nye, he dies in the first movie and he's in 3 of them? Like it's crazy that they figured him out. I mean, the second movie's archival footage and shit, so it's the technicality, but
well, it's the same with the other guy, the
Lucian,
not Lucian, although
but
he is
too.
in. No, the shithead vampire Craven. That's him. Yes. Yeah. He's credited in 3 of these movies as well, which is just madness because he was barely in the first one.
I've always liked Scott Speedman well enough. Like I don't, to your point earlier, I don't want to be the guy who's like, what was he doing? But also, respectfully, what was he doing? Like there's no way this dude, the only other shit I know about him is that he was in a Mary-Kate and Ashley movie, and that he's on a TV show right now. Like he's like a network TV like cop drama.
Okay. I can only guess that it was a falling out with somebody, but I don't know. It
seems like it, but
he's not going to pull that much in salary that it's going to make him not a part of this movie. But also the fact they're using his likeness, like there's got to be legal restrictions on that. Like, you can use archival for footage, but they literally had like an upside down fucking model of him in the freezer.
Looks bad too. It's weird how it's upside down and not moving and still looks bad.
Well, somebody said that it was a stand-in. Like there's an actor who's credited as a stand-in for him in certain parts. So maybe
the shot that I remembered having seen the first time is the shot where you see him through like dock camera footage, and you can tell that it's like proto deep fake technology. Like I'm not saying it's AI, but it's clearly like another dude.
The Crow vibes.
Yeah, well, and then they like you can tell that they're like superimposing a face, but it's weird because it doesn't even really look like him. Like you could have it look fake and be clearly his face on it, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. Really,
I think that's why they
really
recast him for the next one, because it's like, well, look, people didn't really complain about him not looking himself in the third. So
I fucking guess, man.
Fourth.
Now that we're talking about this too, I also wonder if it wasn't the makeup. If after 2 of those movies he was like, fuck this, I'm not putting this blue shit on my entire body again. Like that's you hear people complain about that on huge budget movies where they have tons of money and resources. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was a thing where he's just like, I can't put on this shit again,
pay me this or I'm not coming back. And they were like, well,
Michael wears a fucking button-down Hawaiian t-shirt in this one, so I only have to do my arms and face. Like, like something's got to give. So anyway, listeners, let us know what you thought of Underworld Awakening, if you've even seen it. You probably haven't.
If you haven't, why are you listening to this? I guess to decide whether you want to.
It's like we're so far into this journey now that it's like, all right, we're down to like the last 10 kids in the long walk with the Underworld movies, where it's like, who else is with us still by Underworld 4. So let us know what you thought. Again, if you want to send us some longer form thoughts, eerieinternational@gmail.com is the place to do it. Next week we will be back. We don't have an episode topic picked out quite yet. We'll circle back with Andy and then post it. Usually on our Instagram is the best place to follow. So give us a follow over there.
Yep.
In the meantime, stay safe out there. Keep watching horror movies, and we will see you next week.
Good boo.